Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area.
The time is 10 a.m.
Okay. Thank you for tuning into the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. My name is Brandy, and we invite you to listen to our broadcasts both live and on demand. Our live sessions are available on the Blind Community Thrift Store YouTube channel, Monday to Friday, between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. each week. Additionally, you can access on-demand content through the Audio Reader Network, which offers a wide range of audio materials for the visually impaired community. To explore content from the Audio Reader Network, please visit www.reader.ku.edu. The site provides details about accessing content via Amazon Alexa, Audio Reader Network mobile app, and information on receiving a radio to listen to the broadcast by KSMU Radio. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio. This is from the Springfield News-Leader. Stone County places year-long moratorium on data centers. Communities across the country increasingly are confronting the potential development of data centers. With similar controversies popping up in the Ozarks, Stone County leaders have decided to place a year-long moratorium on data centers and similar projects. Last week, the Stone County Commission presented a resolution to the Stone County Planning and Zoning Commission that would place a temporary 12-month moratorium on solar energy systems, wind energy conversion systems, battery energy storage systems, and data centers, according to a Community Commission Facebook post. The Planning Commission approved it unanimously. According to the resolution itself, the moratorium will be in place to allow the county time to figure out appropriate rules and regulations for such developments. In response to concerns raised by residents, the Commission will consider revisions to zoning regulations and other standards to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of Stone County, the document stated. There's a picture of a brick building with a signage that says Stone County Planning and Zoning. Presiding Commissioner Gordon Weathers shared in a Facebook post that 18 other counties across Missouri were also working on researching zoning regulations needed to address data centers. The News-Leader could not reach Weathers for further comment before publication deadline. My concern is that these facilities are moving into communities very quickly, often faster than counties can update their regulations, he said in the post. Stone County is currently in the midst of a larger zoning regulation revision with the help of consultants, which came as a result of county residents facing repeated problems and inconsistent treatment with the county's zoning regulations. While a collective effort brought the future of counties' planning and zoning to the ballot in April, voters narrowly voted to keep the regulations. More recently, Webster County, which does not have countywide planning and zoning rules, has dealt with a data center that is underway just outside of Marshfield on Rifle Ridge Road. This development was described as a small-scale facility that would operate a closed-loop cooling system using a private well. Webster County residents have strongly opposed the project and called on the Webster County Commission to place a moratorium on data centers. The Commission has stated that the body can only act within the parameters the law establishes, limiting how it can respond to citizen concerns. In April, Marshfield city leaders amended zoning regulations there to specifically include data center considerations within city limits. Those living near a proposed data center site often raise concerns about environmental impacts, noise, and utility and water infrastructure impacts. This article was by Marta Maez. She covers local government at the News-Leader. Have feedback, tips, or story ideas? Contact her at mmieze@newsleader.com. This is from the Springfield Daily Citizen. Community leaders will pass the baton in an event honoring Black history in Springfield. A pair of events on Saturday, June 13th, will celebrate leadership in Black history in Springfield. There's a picture of Timmons Hall's Community Church Collaborative. And they're supporters of the Freedom Ball and voted unanimously on the Baton Award winners. Photo provided by Christine Peoples. And they're wearing black T-shirts with some kind of round logo in the middle, and I can't tell what it says. I apologize. Staying connected to his community keeps Bradley Knox busy. The 37-year-old Springfieldian is not only a parent with his wife Amy to 10-year-old Griffin, their son. He's also the marketing strategist for Unite News, a praise and worship leader at Deliverance Temple Church, and a volunteer for Community Partnership of the Ozarks, Silver Springs Reunion Club, the Springfield Multicultural Festival, and Springfield Public Schools. With such a list of responsibilities, there's not much time to slow down, but that's okay with Knox. On Saturday, June 13th at Washington Avenue Baptist Church, 1722 North National Avenue, when he becomes one of the first recipients of a new community service award that passes the baton to him. He'll be aware he's expected to keep running just like generations before him. I believe it's my duty to listen to and learn and continue to build on the foundation that was already created, Knox says. That means leading with integrity, helping to lift others up in our community, staying connected to the community, and making sure the future generation has guidance. There's a picture of Bradley Knox and his son Griffin in matching Patrick Mahomes jerseys. Photo by Ellie Freistack. The 2 p.m. gathering at the church, where Knox and 2 others will receive the DAS Baton Honors Award, will be the first of 2 events to celebrate the leadership and history of Springfield's Black community. The first Living History Freedom Ball will follow from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at the Library Center, 4653 South Campbell Avenue. Registration is required for the events. At the church, honoring the lifetime achievements of the local leaders whose surnames make up the initials of the new award will be one of the main reasons for the get-together. According to Park Board Timmons Hall Education Coordinator Christine Peoples, who has organized the events with volunteer help from the Hall's Community Church Collaborative. Honorees are local historian Norma Duncan, former Springfield Community Center President and CEO Calvin Allen, and Springfield Greene County Library District Associate Director Jim Smith. What's more, People says their names will be on the batons handed to the award winners. Knox, Midtown Carnegie Branch Library Manager Eva Pilkey, and Ujima Language and Literacy Program founder Sharita Thomas Tate, also a Missouri State University Associate Professor of Speech and Language Pathology. Passing the baton to the next generation while people are still in the race is really important, People says. Local leaders see opportunity with Route 66 Centennial. This weekend's events precede the Juneteenth activities scheduled for June 18th through 20th, which are sponsored by the City of Springfield, Community Partnership of the Ozarks, and the local NAACP chapter. However, after visiting larger cities like Kansas City, where events celebrating Black History Month fill more of the calendar around June 19th, the day in 1865 when Union troops arrived in Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation, Peoples was inspired. Timing for the events also seemed perfect because of the Route 66 Centennial celebrations steering tourists through Springfield, she says. With all of the history coming out of Juneteenth, Route 66, it's a lot of good Black history. Yet her passion for fostering community connections and passing on historical knowledge also inspired Peoples. In addition to her work at Timmons Hall, she has also served as an outreach minister to several local churches where she often works with youth and young families. Through both roles, Peoples has witnessed weakening of such connections and knowledge, not just in the Black community, she emphasizes, but in the Springfield community as a whole. There's a picture of Minister Christine Peoples. She's in a black top with big white polka dots. She is the Timmons Hall Education Coordinator for the Springfield Greene County Park Board and a leader among the Freedom Ball coordinators, photo by Ellie Freistack. Too many people don't know how to relate to others in order to find common ground, she says. The 60-year-old Kansas City native looks back to her childhood when her mother, Pat Reynolds, welcomed newcomers, anybody new coming to town. She was making sure they had what they needed, and she always positioned herself to help, People says. We have the United Nations at our house, she quips. The hospitality of the 80-year-old retired nurse who still teaches Sunday school and preaches at Silver Springs Full Gospel Church give a sense that you were part of a community and not just living in isolation as a family, her daughter recalls. With a stronger sense of community, people were more likely to know each other and to understand that there's a bigger picture, People says. Storytelling was part of that tradition. Within families and at community gatherings, they would talk about our ancestors and what we have gained from them and how strong they were, she adds. and so that story would never fall to the ground. Fashion show honoring Ann Lowe will highlight Freedom Ball. Making such stories part of the conversation again is one purpose of Saturday's events. At the Library Center, exhibits and a fashion show will retell stories about lesser-known African Americans who once made history. Student work from Missouri State University's National History Day, will be on display, and Missouri State Parks interpreter Kevin Smith will host an exhibit about the Buffalo Soldiers, an all-black U.S. Army regiment active after the Civil War and until desegregation of the military after World War II. In 1897, the regiment's Iron Riders rode Spalding bicycles 1,900 miles from Fort Missoula, Montana to St. Louis to test whether bikes could be used in the military. A fashion show about the life and work of mid-20th century couture designer Ann Lowe will be the highlight of the ball. Cheryl Holmes Menifee will portray Lowe, who sewed elegant dresses for celebrities and high society patrons. Lowe may be best known for designing Jacqueline Bouvier's silk taffeta gown for her wedding to then-Senator John F. Kennedy in 1953, even though the future First Lady never gave Lowe public credit for her work, People says. At the ball, Lowe's talent will be front and center as models showcase reproductions of her designs. I've got folks of all ages that'll be going down that runway, Peoples says. The deeper history lesson is this, according to Peoples. The granddaughter of an enslaved seamstress who taught the younger generations to sew, Lowe herself is an example of someone who was handed a baton within her family. The grandmother, she says, passed the baton on to her daughter and then passed it on to Ann Lowe. It represents history and unity. At Washington Avenue Baptist Church, telling the stories of local leaders and rallying younger generations to shoulder their responsibilities will bring the message closer to home. Speakers will pay tribute to mentors like Duncan, trusted as a collector of local history for decades, Peoples says. There's Alan, who worked with generations of youth at the Springfield Community Center, and there's Schmidt, a longtime proponent of a multicultural and outreach programs for the Library District. Pelkey's supervisor and Midtown's former manager, Schmidt has been devoted to his community, particularly to making the library a place where everyone can see themselves and everyone has a sense of belonging, says Pelkey, who will speak at the church. For example, in 2014, when Schmidt collaborated with Peoples on a meet-and-greet outreach program of living history, music, and storytelling, reflecting the cultures of children underserved by the district, young patrons were introduced to community elders and to what the libraries have to offer. Those are kids that may never have stepped foot in the library before, and they came to feel that it was theirs as much as anyone else's, Pelkey says. As an award recipient, the 45-year-old Rogersville native and University of Missouri Columbia graduate will continue to offer similar community-led programs at Midtown. So far, there's a Springfield Community Gardens community fridge, a fix-it fair matching volunteers with residents in need of home repairs, a plant swap where gardeners can share plants, and creative aging workshops led by local artists. I just hope to kind of carry on what Jim set in motion and continue to make the library an accessible place for everyone in the community to see themselves, Pelkey says. Former Springfield resident Darren Barge, who is unable to attend on Saturday, was inspired by Alan, another namesake of the award. The 56-year-old Belleville, Illinois resident says that Alan is probably the leading factor as to why I'm successful today. Recently retired from the Illinois State Police as a master sergeant, the Central High School and Drury University graduate frequented the community center during his elementary and middle school days at Boyd and Pipkin. From playing games at the center after school to field trips during summer programs, Barge said Alan provided him and other children opportunities to go places they might never have visited, places like Fantastic Caverns or Silver Dollar City, to name a few. Yet for Barge, the son of a single mother, Alan was more of a father figure than anything, he says. He was stable, Barge says. He was that person that we knew was going to follow through with everything that he said. Like Duncan, Alan was unavailable for an interview with the Daily Citizen. Nevertheless, Barge would like his mentor to know about the new career he's begun since retiring. He's now executive director of the nonprofit Team Armstead Community Center in Cahokia, Heights, Illinois, which provides after-school programs for about 1,000 youth a year. The idea of having come full circle isn't lost on Barge. I'm doing everything he did, Barge says of Allen. Saturday's keynote speaker, however, is LeGarrette J. King, director of the Center for K-12 Black History and Literacy Education at SUNY at Buffalo. In 2018, when King was an associate professor at the University of Missouri-Columbia, he founded the Carter Center for K-12 Black History Education. King will speak about the importance of passing Black history on to future generations, but he'll also talk about what it means to take responsibilities of community leadership, People says. He is also connected with understanding the passing of the baton, the responsibility that needs to be passed for each generation, she says. While the ball is expected to become an annual event, the DAS award will be given every 2 years, People says, to give recipients time to make a difference in the community. There's a picture of Griffin Knox in his Patrick Mahomes jersey with a Unite News magazine that's featuring his dad and grandfather on the cover. As he considers what he might do to impact the community during his tenure as a baton holder, Knox says he's inspired by the stories of his 92-year-old grandfather, Bishop David Knox, who graduated from Springfield's Lincoln High School and became a carpenter and preacher. Stories of older generations matter, Knox says. That's very important to know that what those people went through, he says. It's important to our culture. Saturday's celebration, he says, is about carrying that vision forward and creating positive change for the future. It represents history and unity. Peoples agrees. This whole thing is about community, she says. This article was by Susan Attenberry Smith. She's a Dallas County native and a former college writing instructor and Springfield News-Leader reporter. A longtime freelance journalist, Smith writes for a variety of publications, including the Daily Citizen and Missouri Life magazine.
Springfield Daily Citizen. City Council passes resolution to rectify charter violations of Citizens Advisory Board. The City Clerk's office is accepting applications for 4 open positions through Thursday, June 18th by Jack McGee. Editor's note, free access to elections coverage is made possible by the Merrill Lynch Nelson Hollum Group. Pictured is the Springfield City Council meeting on Monday, October 20th. Everybody is lined up at a table on the row with all of their computers and microphones and digital things with the City of Springfield logo behind them, and there are 9 members of the board sitting there. To bring Springfield Citizens Advisory Board into compliance with the city charter, the City Council on Monday, June 8th, passed a resolution repealing the previous resolutions establishing the board and appointing its members and replacing it with a new one. The new resolution requires the board have at least 9 members who all live in the city. In a February 23rd letter to the City Council, citizen watchdog Linda Simpkins questioned the legality of the 8-member Citizens Advisory Board, which was established to recommend projects for funding from the half-cent portion of the 3/4-cent sales tax approved by voters in the November 2024 election. Dubbed Spring Forward SGF as required by the ordinance that placed the tax measure on the ballot. Unless renewed by voters, the Spring Forward SGF sales tax will sunset after 10 years in 2035, while the 1/4-cent portion designated for public safety and the city's remaining contributions to the police fire pension system will continue indefinitely. In its first year, the Citizens Advisory Board made several recommendations, including $30 million for a new convention and events center, now in limbo after voters twice rejected a hotel tax increase to help finance it, and $30 million to help complete the renovation and expansion of the Springfield Art Museum. The City Council followed both recommendations unanimously. As required by both the new and previous resolutions, the city recently published an annual report on the board's activities. Pictured is a small billboard at the intersection of Kansas Expressway and Sunshine Streets, directing commuters to information on Question 1, the ballot title for the Spring Forward SGF sales tax, and a Daily Citizen file photo. And pictured, it says, Question 1, Spring Forward SGF, vote November 5th, will fund police fire pension increases in police and firefighter pay, road and parks improvements. Learn more at springfieldmo.gov/election with a QR code. City Council In the February 23rd letter, Simpkins argued that the resolution establishing the board violates the city charter in multiple respects, including by having fewer than 9 members, allowing non-Springfield residents to serve, and by allowing the city council, instead of the board itself, to appoint a chair. City Attorney Jordan Paul later confirmed some of Simpkins' assertions and accepted responsibility for failing to identify what he characterized as a technical error that caused 2 components of the structure to be misaligned with Article 15 of the Charter. Other than one meeting held shortly after the charter violations were brought to light, the Citizens Advisory Board has otherwise paused its work. 8-member board had 3 non-residents. Unless otherwise specified, the charter requires all boards to have 9 members, all of whom have resided in the city for at least 2 years prior to their appointment, and allows boards to select their own chairperson. In contrast, that resolution established the Citizens Advisory Board allowed for 7 to 11 members who had lived or worked in the city for at least 1 year prior to their appointment. While the City Council originally intended for the Citizens Advisory Board to have 9 members, one of the 9 individuals appointed ultimately declined the appointment due to personal reasons. Pictured is the Citizens Advisory Board. Pictured from top left to top right is Andy Peebles, Leslie Forrester, Cliff Smart, and Rusty Worley. From bottom left to bottom right, Becky Voles, Aaron D'Anastasio, Christina Engel, and Lauren Shantz. Thus, the board proceeded with 8 members: Aaron D'Anastasio, Rusty Worley, Christina Engel, Leslie Forrester, Andy Peebles, Lauren Shantz, Cliff Smart, and Becky Voles. Both D'Anastasio and Engel lived outside the city limits at the time of their appointments, and Peebles has since moved outside the city, becoming the 3rd non-resident on the board. When it appointed board members, the City Council also appointed D'Anastasio as chair and Worley as vice chair, despite the charter allowing boards to appoint their own officers. Resolution rectifies charter violations. First considered by the City Council's Plans and Policies Committee before returning to the full council, the resolution approved Monday night addresses all 3 charter violations under the previous resolutions. Moving forward, the board will consist of 9 members, all of whom must be registered voters. Sorry, I lost my place. Moving forward, the board will consist of 9 members, all of whom must be registered voters who have resided within city limits for at least 2 years prior to their appointment. In addition, the resolution explicitly authorizes the board to elect one of its members as chair and other officers it deems necessary. When the City Council initially considered the possibility of allowing the board's non-residents to continue serving in a non-voting advisory capacity, the committee ultimately recommended against doing so. As a result, D'Anastasio, Engel, and Peebles are no longer members of the Citizens Advisory Board. Meanwhile, Worley, Forrester, Smarts, and Voles were reappointed by the new resolution to finish out their current terms, 3 of which are set to expire on May 1st, 2027, and 1 on May 1st, 2028. Shantz's term, on the other hand, recently expired, leaving 5 open positions on the board. A city news release indicates that Shantz is being considered for possible reappointment to another term. While terms are generally required to last 3 years, the City Council is permitted to appoint members to shorter terms in order to stagger appointments so that an approximately equal number of members are appointed each year. The City Clerk's office is accepting applications for the other 4 vacancies through Thursday, June 18th. Recommendations on board appointments will be made by the City Council's Committee of the Whole, which, as the name suggests, is composed of all 8 council members and the mayor through June 30th. After that, appointment recommendations will become the responsibility of the 4-member Public Involvement Committee. City Manager David Cameron said the Committee of the Whole would review applications and make recommendations for appointments at a June 29th meeting. Those recommendations will be forwarded to a regular meeting of the City Council for final approval. This was written by Jack McGee. He is the government affairs reporter at the Springfield Daily Citizen. He previously covered politics and business for the Daily Citizen. He's an MSU graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in journalism and a minor in political science. Reach him at jmcgee@sgfcitizen.org or 417-837-3663.
This is from the Springfield News-Leader. Missouri delays plan to block food aid use for candy, soda, and desserts, by Steph Quinn from the Missouri Independent. Missouri is postponing its plan to prohibit the use of federal food aid to purchase candy, prepared desserts, and sugary drinks until February 15, 2027. after grocers warned they needed clearer guidance to enforce the new restrictions at the checkout. The delay will allow the Missouri Department of Social Services to develop educational materials to explain the changes to Missourians and a comprehensive product identification list so that grocers across the state can implement the changes consistently, according to an announcement from the department. Bailey Watts, a department spokesperson, told The Independent that the department is exploring options to determine the most effective way to provide product information in considering experiences and lessons learned from other states. There's a picture of the soda aisle in a grocery store. You can see orange crushed soda, zero sugar crushed soda, Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew, and on the list goes. The Missouri Department of Social Services submitted its request to postpone, along with a revision of definitions, to the U.S. Department of Agriculture on June 3rd. Photo by Leanne Ray, West Virginia Watch. Oklahoma, which began similar SNAP restrictions in February, provided retailers with a list of 12-digit product codes for barred items. Missouri's Healthy SNAP initiative originated with the September 2025 executive order from Governor Mike Kehoe directing the department to discourage the use of Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to buy foods that are high in sugar and ultra-processed, and incentivize healthy eating by partnering with farmers and enhancing the state's existing food education and access programs. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, which oversees SNAP and a program called SUN Bucks that gives families of eligible children a one-time benefit of $120 to buy groceries during the summer, approved Missouri's plan to restrict purchases in December. Now the department is waiting for federal feedback on its revised waivers. Kehoe said postponing the changes would help ensure a smooth rollout for retailers and Missouri families. Extending this timeline to February 2027 ensures that when the program refocuses launches, it will have a well-supported network of local retailers fully prepared to deliver widespread support to our communities, Kehoe said in the press release. In addition to requesting an extension of 4.5 months, the department has submitted revisions to definitions of items to be excluded to the USDA. The department's website currently defines candy as products combining sugar or artificial sweetener with chocolate, fruits, nuts, caramels, gummies, and hard candies in the form of bars, drops, or pieces. Prepared desserts are defined as processed, shelf-stable, ready-to-eat, prepackaged sweet food that doesn't require any additional preparation. But Dan Shull, executive director of the Missouri Grocers Association, said in a previous interview with The Independent that those definitions still leave questions. It's very simple to say we want SNAP recipients to have a healthy food list, Shull said, until you decide for all families what healthy is. This story was first published at MissouriIndependent.com.
Springfield Daily Citizen, SPS hosts hiring fair for support staff at its schools. Bus drivers, paraprofessionals, maintenance workers, and more sought for the 2026 to 27 school year by Joe Hadsel. School bus driver Randy Sadler of Springfield gets ready to return to her 3 school routes. You have, she is a middle-aged woman with glasses, and her hair is pulled back into a ponytail kind of at the half back of her head with the rest of it hanging down. She is wearing a safety vest with a blue button-down shirt and jeans, and she is holding a school bus balloon that says "Back to School" on it. So it looks like she is driving in the middle of the school bus balloon. And then behind her is a whole array of people sitting in chairs looking ready to be at the hiring fair from before. People interested in working as supporting staff members with one of the city's largest employers can learn more at an upcoming job fair. Springfield Public Schools will host a job fair from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Wednesday at its transportation headquarters, located at 2945 East Pythian Street. The event will feature positions that do not require certification from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, including bus drivers, paraprofessionals, maintenance workers, cafeteria and other nutrition service workers, custodial workers. Many of the positions are open according to the district. The fair will give applicants the chance to learn more about each position and receive one-on-one assistance with the application process. A free hot dog lunch will also be served. The district employs roughly 3,500 people. More than half of them are teachers, principals, and other administrators who must have teaching certification in Missouri. SPS labels these employees as certified. And other employees labeled classified are involved with the safety and education of the district's about 25,000 students. An example is the fleet of school buses and drivers. SPS has a staff of 125 drivers who handle multiple routes each day. A spokesperson for the district said that while the fleet is currently fully staffed, the department still needs drivers to fill openings created throughout the year as drivers either retire or leave. The district operates more than 50 school buildings, as well as a handful of other operational centers. Current job openings can be viewed on the district's website. This is by Joe Hadsel. He is the education reporter for the Springfield Daily Citizen. Hadsel has more than 2 decades of experience reporting in the Ozarks with the Joplin Globe, Christian County Headliner News, and 417 Magazine. Contact him at 417-837-3671 or jhadsall@sgfcitizen.org.
This is from This Day in History. Handcart pioneers depart for Salt Lake City. In an extraordinary demonstration of resolve and fortitude, nearly 500 members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, often informally known as Mormons, leave Iowa City and head west for Salt Lake City, carrying all their goods and supplies in 2-wheeled handcarts. Of all the thousands of pioneer journeys to the West in the 19th century, few were more arduous than those undertaken by the so-called handcart companies from 1856 to 1860. The secular and religious leader of the religious sect, Brigham Young, had established Salt Lake City as the center of a new Utah sanctuary for the Latter-day Saints in 1847. In subsequent years, Young worked diligently to encourage and aid members who made the difficult overland trek to the Great Salt Lake. In 1856, however, a series of poor harvests left the church with only a meager fund to help immigrants buy wagons and oxen. Young suggested a cheaper mode of travel. Let them come on foot with handcarts or wheelbarrows. Let them gird up their loins and walk through, and nothing shall hinder or stay them. Amazingly, many members of the church followed his advice. On June 9, 1856, a band of 497 left Iowa City, Iowa, and began the more than 1,000-mile trek to Salt Lake City. They carried all their goods in about 100 2-wheeled handcarts, most of which were heaped with a maximum load of 400 to 500 pounds. Each family usually had one cart, and the father and mother took turns pulling, while any children old enough to help by pushing. The handcart immigrants soon ran into serious problems. The craftsmen who had constructed the handcarts back in Iowa City had chosen to use wooden axles instead of iron in order to save time and money. Sand and dirt quickly wore down the wood, and water and heat made the axles splinter and crack. As the level terrain of the prairies gave way to the more rugged country of the plains, the sheer physical challenge of hauling a 500-pound cart began to take its toll. One British immigrant who was a skilled carpenter wrote of having to make 3 coffins in as many days. Some of the pilgrims gave up. 2 girls in one handcart group left to marry a pair of miners they met along the way. The majority, however, struggled on and eventually reached the Salt Lake Valley. Over the course of the next 4 years, some 3,000 converts made the overland journey by pushing and pulling heavy-laden handcarts. Better planning and the use of iron axles made the subsequent immigrations slightly easier than the first, and some actually made the journey more quickly than if they had used ox-driven wagons. Still, once the church finances had recovered, Young's followers returned to using conventional wagons. The handcart treks remained nothing less than heroic. One girl later estimated that she and her family had taken over 1 million steps to reach their goal, pushing and pulling a creaking wooden handcart the entire way. Also, in this day in history in 1893, 22 die in collapse of Ford's Theater, site of Lincoln assassination. In Washington, D.C., on June 9, 1893, the interior of ramshackle Ford's Theater collapses, causing the deaths of 22 people. The building, where President Lincoln was shot on April 14, 1865, houses hundreds of clerks employed by the War Department's Records and Pensions Division. An investigation determines the cause of the tragedy was a pier that had given way during excavation in the basement for an electric light plant. Rescue workers quickly arrived at the scene, toiling like demons, to search for victims and to remove debris. Clerks recalled screams of coworkers. One witness said Civil War veterans who worked in the building were the wildest and craziest. In a panic, some employees jumped from the second floor, using an awning to brace their fall. Businesses and homes in the immediate area were used as makeshift hospitals. Anguished relatives rushed to the scene. Some onlookers watched events unfold from the rooftops of buildings. Plunged in a chasm of death, read a newspaper headline. A Washington Post reporter visited the home of a victim whose body was the last one recovered. "Say, mister, when is Papa coming home?" asked the tearful boy. "He will come home tomorrow, won't he?" One man thought there was a curse on the building since Lincoln's assassination. "If I had my way, Ford's Theater should be entirely demolished and the ground be forever left unbuilt upon," he told a reporter. Ford's Theater remained a federal office building until 1932. After undergoing extensive renovations, it was reopened as a theater in 1968. The National Historic Site underwent extensive renovations again in the 2000s.
417 Magazine, How the Ozark Mill Keeps a 200-Year Milling Tradition Alive. Blake Adams preserves a nearly 200-year-old tradition, keeping the Ozark Mill alive while grinding barley for their new lager and helping other historic mills across Missouri, by Jordan Blomquist. Pictured is Brandon Alms. The Ozark Mill contains notes and etchings left on hoppers from people who worked there over a century ago. He is a lean gentleman, looks to be in his 30s or 40s. He has kind of a scruffy beard and a more 1890s style mustache that is styled coming out the sides. He's wearing a Ozark Mill hat, trucker's hat that is brown and mesh on the back. There is a large logo of Ozark Mill on the front. And a patch. He is wearing a button-down striped linen shirt, short-sleeved with jeans and a thick brown leather belt and a key hanging from it. He's inside the mill. You can see that it's older style, 1800s style, with the large wheels, wooden structure all around him, while he is looking on at something in the mill. More than 100 years ago, employees at the Ozark Mill etched notes and numbers into hoppers, leaving behind traces of a history that continues to unfold today. Now, Blake Adams is the head miller at Dogwood Canyon and the Ozark Mill. He works 4 days a week at Dogwood Canyon and 1 day a week at the Ozark Mill, maintaining all the mechanical aspects of the mills, as well as all milling operations. Managing the mechanics of a historic mill is somewhat of a dying art. There's just not very many people who have the knowledge of it, Adams says. His path to becoming a mill expert is as much about curiosity as it is about timing. From a young age, he was captivated by the mechanics of mills. Adams remembers being 7 or 8 years old, peering into the basement of Edwards Mill and watching red pulleys turn. Growing up near the Spring Creek Mill, he would grab vanilla ice cream in a styrofoam cup from the nearby cafe and sit, staring at the old building that held the machinery, imagining what life inside the mill must have been like. Initially pursuing agricultural education and then a conservation wildlife management degree in college, Adams found his way to Dogwood Canyon through hands-on experience. By 2015, he was consulting on mill operations at Dogwood Canyon, and by 2016, he took the lead at both Dogwood and the Ozark Mill. Over the next several years, he became involved in restoring and operating the historic mill, a process that led to its opening in 2021. Now, 5 years later, the Ozark Mill has 3 impressive mills on the milling floor. One spins for display, one is completely static, and the third is only run when grinding grain, like when it was recently used to mill barley for the Ozarks Mill's new Golden Hour lager in collaboration with 4x4 Brewing Company. Reviving the mill. Getting the Ozark Mill operational again for brewing presented a unique set of challenges. When the team first reopened the mill as a museum, safety was the top priority. Cages, plexiglass, and dramatically reduced speed meant the machinery could be observed without risk to visitors. But it effectively ended the building's ability to grind at full production. Grain dust, insurance concerns, and the sheer force of the machinery made high-speed operation impractical, so the mill became more of an educational centerpiece than a working facility. Still, Adams saw an opportunity to honor the mill's legacy. One of the 3 mills on the floor, dating from around the 1960s, was in good enough condition to perform a very coarse grind. It is the newest of the 3 mills and was originally used to produce oats. It could handle barley, making it ideal for a symbolic production. With the support of Finley Farms executive chef Brandon Peterson and the team at 4x4 Brewing Company, Adams revived the mill just enough to grind barley for the beer collaboration. We're planning another brew date to make some more, Adams says. As far as how much we'll continue to do in the future, it has not yet been determined. Adams is just as dedicated to the behind-the-scenes work as he is to interacting with visitors. Much of his job involves the quiet, monotonous tasks like greasing, cleaning, and maintaining the mill. But he also uses his expertise to help other historic mills across Missouri, from advising on relocations to guiding preservation efforts. While working at the Ozark Mill, it's not lost on Adams the people and the stories that came before him. There's been a mill here since before the Civil War, and I'm standing in the same spot doing the same thing that millers have been doing for 200 years nearly, Adams says. It means a lot. Pictured is Brandon again, and he is sort of blurry in the background, while in the forward picture he is holding the Golden Hour lager in a glass, and then the can is sitting next to it. Oh, that's the end of the article. It sounded like there was going to be more.
This is the Springfield News-Leader. Is bottled water left in a hot car safe to drink? Here's what to know, by Ahmed Jawadi, USA Today Network. Summer is nearly here, and with it comes the return of Missouri's summer heat. As the days get hotter, you might find yourself bringing a bottle of water with you whenever you're out. And sometimes you might accidentally leave an unfinished bottle in your car, only to find it later baking under the hot sun. Now, whether you want to drink that water is not up to you, but is it actually safe to drink? Here's what to know as temperatures continue to climb across the Show Me State. How hot can a car get during a heat wave? Cars heat up quickly, even when the outdoor temperatures don't seem extreme. According to the National Weather Service, the inside of a vehicle can rise by 20 degrees or more in 10 minutes. Dark interiors, direct sunlight, and closed windows can push temperatures even higher. Is bottled water left in a hot car, safe to drink? Generally, yes, if the bottle remains sealed and hasn't been sitting in extreme heat for an extended period of time, or repeatedly heated, cooled, and reheated again inside a vehicle. In other words, a bottle left in a hot car for a few hours is generally considered fine to drink, but you probably want to toss it if it's been sitting for more than a day. The biggest concern usually isn't bacteria, but instead microplastics. A 2014 study examined 16 brands of bottled water sold in China that were stored at 158 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 weeks and found higher levels of antimony, a substance listed as toxic by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as bisphenol, a BPA chemical used in some plastics that has been under long-term scrutiny. Even so, only one of the 16 brands tested exceeded the Environmental Protection Agency standards for antimony and BPA. When should you throw bottled water away? You may want to discard the bottle if the seal has already been broken or if the bottle looks warped or damaged from heat exposure, according to the CDC. It's also a good idea to toss it if the water smells or tastes unusual after sitting in a hot car. Are reusable water bottles better in the heat? Reusable insulated bottles, especially stainless steel varieties, typically hold up better in hot conditions than thin disposable plastic bottles. Still, reusable bottles should be cleaned regularly, particularly after being left in a hot car with sports drinks, flavored beverages, or anything outside of plain water. How to stay hydrated this summer. Health officials recommend drinking water consistently during extreme heat, even before feeling thirsty. Other tips include storing extra water indoors instead of in the car, using insulated reusable bottles when possible, avoiding leaving drinks in direct sunlight, checking on children, older adults, and pets during extreme heat. The CDC warns that heat-related illnesses can develop quickly during prolonged periods of high temperatures and humidity.
Palin Music Center introduces new CEO. Pictured is Alec Palin, and he is the third generation CEO of Palin Music. He has instruments behind him, acoustic guitars on the left and electric on the right, and then a lot of brass instruments on the wall behind him. He is pictured in a light colored t-shirt, sort of a gray, light gray, dark white, and then a blue suit jacket. This is by Chef Pickle, posted online this morning, June 8th at 11:29 a.m. Palin Music Center is keeping leadership in the family with the installation of Alec Palin as CEO. Palin said he became CEO on January 1st, and the company is now promoting the leadership change. Palin succeeds his dad, Brett Palin, in the role. Brett's father was CEO before him. I am very excited, of course, said Alec Palin, who previously served as director of marketing for the company. I'm just extremely passionate about the company and always have been. It's just kind of in the blood. Palin said his dad remains owner of Palin Music. With the leadership change, Palin will oversee a company that he said would surpass $25 million in revenue this year. The company has 250 employees and 10 locations in Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, and Oklahoma. We switched over January 1st, and we've had our best year ever since every single month this whole year, Palin said. Palin Music Center last summer announced Seth Swafford as the company's president, according to past Springfield Business Journal reporting.
This is from the Springfield News-Leader. I went to see the renovated reflecting pool. Here's what I noticed. By Michelle Del Rey, USA Today. The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool continues to mirror the Washington Monument after over a month of renovations to redo the pool's basin. On Monday, June 8th, I visited the memorial to observe the progress of the construction project that began in April. President Donald Trump commissioned a swimming pool contractor to carry out the work, according to a lawsuit filed against the U.S. Department of the Interior by the Cultural Landscape Foundation on May 11th. The complaint took issue with the basin's color, which the organization said had been a signature feature of the pool since its opening in 1924. The reflecting pool basin was previously achromatic in gray. The prior color created the illusion of greater depth and a more profound reflection, according to the nonprofit, which cited a National Park Service cultural landscape report published in August 1999. In an emailed statement to USA Today, the National Park Service said it had painted the basin the American flag blue, a dark navy. The agency said the color would improve the pool's reflectivity compared to the existing gray concrete. The concrete, the agency said, collects algae and turns a slimy green. Before the concrete bottom, the pool was a black asphalt. At points, the water had been dyed to improve the reflection, the agency said. How did the pool look on Monday, June 8th? On Monday, June 8th, the pool offered a decent reflection of the monument as it continues to be filled with water. Additionally, some of the construction crews were spotted wearing Make America Great Again or MAGA hats. In an ex post on June 4th, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum shared a photo of the reflecting pool showing a glowing Washington monument shimmering on the water, demonstrating that despite the new color, the reflecting pool will maintain its purpose. The story was updated to add new information and to meet our standards. Michelle Del Rey is a trending news reporter. Reach her at mdelrey@usatoday.com.
Springfield Daily Citizen, Sports Director Dan Lucy out at KOLR 10 after 37 years. The Missouri Sports Hall of Fame inductee said management decided to eliminate the sports director position and not renew his contract. By Lyndall Scranton. After decades at Color 10, Sports Director Dan Lucy says his contract was not renewed at the Springfield TV station. Pictured is Dan Lucy, and he is standing in front of a video camera. He is wearing a white button-down shirt and looks like a blue tie, light blue tie with dark blue stripes. For Dan, it wasn't about being flashy or loud or launching into hot takes on camera. His philosophy was about giving others their due and covering local sports in an even-handed fashion. The foundation is always about telling stories, Lucy said this last week, following his final sportscast on KOLR, where he was a dependable part of Ozarks area sports coverage since arriving at the station in December of 1988. Every team, every player has a story. To be able to share them with an audience, I just wanted to provide those stories and the news of the day, Lucy said. Following his philosophy to the final sentence on the teleprompter, Lucy signed off without fanfare. Nary a mention during his final on-air appearance from himself or colleagues about it being his goodbye. Lucy was told several months ago that his contract would not be renewed. After 37 and a half years at the station, the 63-year-old is looking for work to bridge the gap until retirement. They told me that they were not going to renew my contract and were changing the way that they were doing sports, and they were eliminating the sports director's position, he said. A member of both the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame and Springfield Area Sports Hall of Fame, Lucy covered a spectrum of local sports, second only in terms of tenure to the legendary Ned Reynolds at opposing station KYTV for so many years. Hired just before Christmas in 1988 to work weekends, and as a weekday reporter after Tom Mass left KOLR and Scott Opfer was promoted to sports director, he was elevated to sports director in 1993 when Opfer left the television business to start his own production company. The University of Missouri graduate once served as a newspaper correspondent for the Spring News-Leader covering Mizzou football and basketball. Lucy took the KOLR job after anchoring sports for 3 years in Columbia. He said he actually worked with Reynolds a few weeks before taking the KOLR job, sharing television duties on a Missouri State Mizzou men's basketball game in Columbia. The son of an Army colonel moved around frequently as a youngster, from Germany to Kansas to Hawaii and finally to Omaha, Nebraska, where he graduated high school. He said it's ironic that after moving around so much, he settled into a job for more than 3 decades. I felt like it was a starting point, he said, of arriving in Springfield. My son, Scotty, was born in May after I got here that December. We were raising a family, and this was a great place to raise a family. I was looking around in 93, then Scott Opfer left to start his business, and they gave me the sports director job. I've been here ever since. What a ride it's been. He caught the wave of Missouri State athletics going into Division I and achieving big things in men's basketball under Charlie Spoonhour and women's hoops with Coach Cheryl Burnett. He laughed about the first weeks in Springfield when Spoonhour's Bears immediately fell into a 3-game losing streak. Back then, post-game interviews were held outside the locker room in a Hammond Student Center hallway. He looked up at me after one of those games and said, "Lucy, we haven't won a game since you got here. You better go back up to Norm," Mizzou coach Norm Stewart. He listed the 1990 Bears' Sweet 16 NCAA tournament run, the Jackie Stiles-led women's NCAA Final Four season in 2001, and Drury men's basketball's 2013 NCAA Division II national championship as 3 of the highlights of his journey. But the smaller, less visible teams like Evangel football, along with high school coverage, ranked right up there in the storytelling business. Evangel football, I quickly learned that they were always good and had a mix of players. It was fun. I would go to their practice once a week and give them a little attention. I did that for 30-something years. It was so relaxed, and they appreciated coverage, whoever the coach was. Filling airtime in the summer, the days before the Springfield Cardinals arrived in 2005, was a memorable challenge. Lucy recalled golf tips with noted local instructor Rick Grayson turned into a fun and informative summer segment. Covering the Price Cutter Charity Championship was another of his favorite assignments each summer for more than 30 years. In Springfield, we're so lucky to have the Bears, Drury, Evangel, and the high schools, and then all the schools around the area, Lucy said. Then Mizzou and Arkansas. It was always a juggling act to make sure everyone gets coverage. You do the most you can with the resources you have. Perhaps the biggest challenge of Lucy's career came in the years before the COVID-19 pandemic that shut the sports world down in 2020. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer and not only beat it, but became an advocate for prostate cancer screening and early detection. Like a coach who has watched assistants, not just a boss, but a mentor to many young sports reporters who were lucky enough to work for him, said Carboni, who worked at Color from 2010 to 13. 16 years after I first worked for Dan, I still carry the lessons I learned from him with me. The most important one being to care about the job, the audience, and the people you cover. Dan also understood that many of the younger reporters who came to work for him needed to feel like they had family in Springfield. He and his wife Linda treated me like family for the 3 years I was there, often hosting me for a Sunday dinner and really getting to know and care about me. That was huge for a kid from the East Coast who found himself in the Ozarks at 25 years old, knowing absolutely no one. I'm proud of all of them, said Lucy of his former Color Sports teammates. What's next for Lucy? He hinted that there are more stories to tell on the Springfield sports scene. God has a plan, and we just have to trust in it and see where it leads. I'll probably be in Springfield for the foreseeable future. I hopefully will get to do some work for Height Productions and Missouri State for ESPN Plus, kind of like Tom Ladd, Don West, and Corey Riggs do. Hopefully get into the rotation and maybe do some work with football and some of the other sports like soccer. He said he's grateful for his long career at KOLR and doesn't want to dwell on the unceremonious ending. I just want to thank all the players, coaches, and administrators who allowed me to tell stories over the years, all the thrilling victories and heartbreaking losses, he said, plus all my colleagues at KOLR. A lot of people work hard behind the scenes. I also want to thank the viewers for allowing me in their homes. It's been my pleasure. I'll miss it, but I'll still be around, and I look forward to seeing everybody again. This is by Lyndall Scranton. He is a Springfield native who has covered sports in the Ozarks for more than 35 years, witnessing nearly every big sports moment in the region during the last 50 years. The Missouri Sports Hall of Famer, Springfield Area Sports Hall of Famer, and live fire cooking enthusiast, also serves as PR director for Lucas Oil Speedway in Wheatland, Missouri, and is co-host of the Tailgate Guys Barbecue podcast. Contact him at lscranton755@gmail.com and follow him on Twitter at Lyndall, Lyndal, Scranton, Scranton.
This is from the Springfield Daily Citizen. Community raises $40,000 in a day for pregnant woman killed in James River Freeway crash. Leah Hyde, 24, worked with elementary-aged children across the Springfield area, according to her obituary, by Zoe McIntyre. There's a picture of Leah Hyde and her husband, Joshua Snodgrass. She has red hair and is in overalls and a white shirt. He has looks like darker brown hair, but a red beard and can't decide what color that is. A white t-shirt maybe and brown jeans, holding an ultrasound picture. They were expecting a baby girl named Lark. In less than a day, the community raised over $40,000 for the family of a young Willard woman who was fatally struck by a car Tuesday afternoon, June 2nd, on James River Freeway in Springfield. Leah Hyde, 24, was 5 months pregnant and expecting a baby girl with her husband Joshua Snodgrass, according to an obituary shared with the Daily Citizen by family friend Bernadette Shively, who is organizing the fundraiser. The family is accepting donations on GoFundMe to help cover funeral and burial costs for both Hyde and her unborn child. More than 500 people had donated as of Thursday afternoon. Hyde graduated from Marshfield High School in 2020 and had an occupational therapy assistant degree from Ozarks Technical Community College. She dedicated her life to serving and caring for kids, showing up for them with a love that came naturally and completely. The fundraiser states, around 1:30 p.m. on June 2nd, Hyde hit the concrete median divider while driving westbound on James River Freeway between Campbell Avenue and Kansas Expressway. Her car stopped in the far inside lane. Police say Hyde exited the vehicle on the driver's side and was fatally struck by another driver who was attempting to avoid the vehicle in the roadway. She died at the scene. The circumstances of the crash are a part of an ongoing investigation by the Springfield Police Department. To know Leah was to know warmth, her obituary reads. She was the kindest of souls, empathetic, giving, and full of light. She loved a good book paired with a great cup of coffee and found her happiest moments at home, wrapped in the comfort of the people and things she cherished. She was, in every sense, sunshine personified. This article was by Zoe McIntyre. Zoe McIntyre covers Springfield's surrounding communities like Nixa, Ozark, and Republic. McIntyre is an Evangel University alum and lifelong resident of the Springfield area. Contact her at zmcintyre at sgfcitizen.org.
Mercy swings to the black. St. Louis-based Mercy swung to the black through the fiscal third quarter. Mercy reported operating income of $230.3 million through the third quarter, which compares with a loss of $57 million a year earlier. Total operating revenue reached $8.1 billion through the 9 months ended March 31st. Read more from Becker's Hospital Review. Evangel cuts 40 positions, part of effort to reduce spending by $10 million. The private faith-based Springfield University remains on federal watch list for shaky financial stability by Claudette Riley. Evangel University has eliminated 40 positions, 13% of its faculty and staff, as part of an ongoing effort to cut at least $10 million in operating expenses by the end of the next fiscal year. Most of 24 staff positions were cut by layoff or not renewing annual contracts, while most of the 16 faculty positions were dropped through attrition or not filling jobs vacated by retirements and resignations. The cost cuts are far-reaching going into the upcoming year, from restructuring its online program and reducing athletic scholarships to bumping up class sizes and dropping automatic tuition breaks for employees' children. President Mike Rakes, ending his 4th year at the helm, said Evangel has overcome challenges but still faces compounding economic and operational pressures. When I came in, Evangel was just like it had been since 2008, always in the red, always fighting for the big donation to see them through, he said in an interview with Springfield Business Journal in May. He added, I knew coming in what we were facing. How much is spent has always been more than we charge students. Evangel reported a fall headcount of 2,741 students, an increase of 4.6% over the prior year. The estimated tuition and fees for the 2026-27 year are nearly $32,000. Rake said the goal of the changes is for Evangel to operate completely in the black by July 2027. Barbara Gelman-Danley, president of the Higher Learning Commission, said higher education as an industry is in a precarious spot, and private campuses like Evangel have it tougher than most because they cannot access local and state funding. The HLC accredits Evangel, Missouri State University, and many other institutions. In most cases, unless they're doing something off, the public institutions have backups. They have protections, she said. The private institutions have tuition that they're dependent on. Gelman-Danley said public scrutiny, competition, and faculty and staff turnover is ramping up amid political and global pressures, disruptions in the state and federal funding streams, and the arrival of the demographic cliff, a sharp decline in the number of college-age students due to declining birth rates since the Great Recession. It's an inflection point because you have college presidents turning over more often, a lot of federal and state changes that are impacting higher education, a lot of burnout from students, she said. I'm not sure it wasn't there before, but we are hearing about it now. More than a decade ago, Evangel landed on a federal watch list of institutions with shaky financial stability, which was created by the U.S. Department of Education. Evangel has been subject to additional oversight called heightened cash monitoring since 2015. I can't speak about individual institutions, so I'll say in general what that means is we found out you can't pay your payroll. Well, if you can't pay your payroll, you probably are having problems delivering your services to students, Gelman-Danley said, adding, it's not a sanction, it's public transparency. There is no indication Evangel has ever failed to meet payroll, but university officials confirmed there is a need to have more money on hand to cover day-to-day expenses. They're wanting us to have more cash in the bank, Rake said of the USDE. Our cash flow is what we're wanting to increase by July of 2027. The university has shown progress according to the federal database, but remains on the watch list. Michael Kolstad, Evangel's executive vice president and chief of staff, said federal relief aid during and after the pandemic allowed colleges to postpone tough decisions. He said campuses are fighting over a small pool of students dealing with increased costs and trying to respond to public questions about whether higher education is worth it. We're all in the same boat, he said. It's just really forcing us to get our houses in order. Rick said that when he arrived, there was a structural deficit in how Evangel operated with little margin for error. The first step was to track all the money going in and going out. In the discovery phase, we were like, okay, where's the hole in the bucket? Where's the problem, he said. The discussion phase that followed explored short-term and long-term options. Rather than try to band-aid it, we need to fix it, he said. Tough budget cuts started in earnest this spring and will continue through the coming school year. Kolstad said Evangel is in no danger of closing its doors, and the belt tightening will put the campus in a stronger position for whatever challenges are coming. We've got to make these decisions now before it really gets desperate. Evangel is in a good place, even though sometimes from the outside it may not look like we are, he said. It's just that we're having to make some really hard decisions now for the future. Despite the difficulties at hand, there have been bright spots. Evangel's fall headcount has grown steadily in recent years, and deposits for the coming year are outpacing this time last year. Rakes has helped raise more than $134 million in donations and grants during his first 4 years to grow scholarships, strengthen the endowment, and build or rejuvenate facilities, all which help recruit students. Flood Hall, a new student dormitory, is scheduled to be done in June. He said one-time funds cannot be used to cover ongoing expenses. People care about certain projects, he said. They don't want to help pay your bills. Eliminating 40 positions. Evangel said it had 105 faculty and 200 staff positions this past year. Personnel make up roughly 80% of the most higher education budgets, including Evangel's $53 million spending play for FY26, and so reducing positions was needed to save money, Kolstad said. You just hate it, especially for the people who have been impacted. It just breaks your heart, he said. But at the end of the day, it's what we can we do to make Evangel be here for the next generation, because we believe missionally we still have a lot of work to do. He said Evangel employed an estimated 200 staff positions this year, and 24 were cut. 7 through attrition, meaning either resignation or retirement, and the other 17 were not offered a contract for the 2026 to 2027 year. Of 105 faculty members, 16 positions were cut across campus. Evangel reported to the federal government that its average salaries for instructional staff in 24 to 25 were $48,805. Paul Lewis, a faculty member who was not offered a contract for the 2026 to 2027 year, said he worries about the institution's growing reliance on adjunct instructors. My concern is that the quality of the education will not be there, said Lewis, professor of historic theology and intercultural studies at the Embedded Seminary. My hope is that they will try to keep the quality up. Another shift was restructuring the College of Online Learning. Kolstad said online options will now be fully integrated into traditional academic areas to give students more flexibility. Prior, you were either an all-seated or an all-online program, but we didn't have a lot of offerings that allowed a seated student to take some online classes and vice versa, he said. Kolstad said that the change, which involved cutting 2 jobs, reduced redundancy and will save money. He said most staff cuts are done at this point. We've about landed this part of the plane and can start moving forward, Kolstad said. If we have to start making adjustments, did we cut too deep? Did we not cut deep enough? We can have those types of conversations over the next few months. Rake said a smaller faculty means the average class size will go up slightly, and most professors will have a higher teaching load. Kolstad said by the end of FY27, Evangel wants to cut $10 to $12 million to be leaner and nimbler. He said the current operating budget is $42 million. We're also evaluating how to do things, he said. Cutting popular benefit. 2 months ago, Evangel dropped automatic tuition breaks for students who are the children of faculty and staff. The benefit was available to all employees, but the level of discount, up to 90%, was based on length of service. A review of benchmark institutions showed Evangel set up the perk differently. Many other institutions require students to fill out a free application for federal student aid, known as FAFSA, and other financial aid forms to see if they qualified for state subsidies or federal grants. Rake said Evangel provided the benefit up front before FAFSA or scholarships, and so the annual cost to the university was more than $1 million a year. He said typically up to 10 students a year, or 40 at any given time, benefited from the perk. Rakes said faculty members were devastated by the decision and acknowledged the rollout was not handled properly. They felt disrespected, he said. He said all tuition discounts, including breaks for partners like Convoy of Hope employees, were reviewed and most remain in place. Evangel is restructuring how that support is delivered so it fits within a more sustainable, consistent, and transparent tuition discounting system, he said. This allows us to honor our employees, care for our families, and at the same time manage the university's financial model with greater clarity and long-term responsibility. Rake said the university is exploring the creation of a scholarship fund that will help offset tuition costs not covered by federal aid or scholarships. He said the university's Board of Trustees plans to discuss the option to help employees receive the highest tuition discount possible during its biannual meeting October 13th to 14th. Anything finalized at that time will be widely shared with the campus. Scrutinizing 70 majors. In the coming year, Evangel will scrutinize its 70 majors to identify the ones that are growing. Majors, especially those with fewer than 10 students annually, may be cut or merged. Kolstad offered an example. He said there are hardly any math majors, but there are quite a few majoring in math education, and the paths are closely aligned. You can sometimes get students to move over, he said. Gelman Danley of the Higher Learning Commission said institutions that thrive in a difficult landscape tend to invest in programs that set them apart. If something is a fad that comes along, you have to really consider if it's right for your institution, she said. Just focus, figure out what you can be really strong at, build on that. Rake said that only 17% of Evangel graduates are going into ministry or compassion work, such as missionary, church, or nonprofit jobs. Evangel's top 5 traditional undergraduate programs include healthcare and nursing, business management, biology on the pre-med track, psychology, and elementary education. Rake said survival requires taking a hard look at what employers want and offering a practical, consumer-focused approach within a faith-driven institution. A lot of institutions, especially Christian institutions, are more worried about preserving what they have rather than getting kids ready for the marketplace. Our job is to get kids ready for the marketplace, he said. Yes, we want them to have the evangel ethos, and they'll get that, but we're getting them ready.
This is from the Springfield News-Leader. It's an opinion piece. This piece expresses the views of its author separate from those of this publication. Why is everything so dang expensive in America? When life was simpler, you could count on neighbors sharing their good fortune with other neighbors. By Byron McCauley from the Holland Sentinel. Key points. Many Americans feel the cost of living has become unmanageable with rising prices for cars, food, and other necessities. A recent poll indicates widespread pessimism about the economy, many citing struggling financial conditions. The author contrasts today's high costs and complex fees with a past where goods were simpler and community support was more common. The article suggests that the current generation may be the first to be less financially successful than the previous one. In 1984, I bought a Chevrolet Chevette for $3,000, or about $11,000 in today's dollars. That was for the entire car, not a per-month financing plan. Today, the Chevy Trax is an entry-level option for about $28,000, and the average new American-made car is $48,000, according to Kelley Blue Book. Insane. My Chevette, also known as Bertha, was blue with a black grille, a departure from chrome that took me from the piney woods of North Louisiana to the deserts of the Southwest, into the San Gabriel Mountains north of Los Angeles and back. Bertha was built like a box turtle, and the engine sometimes growled like a wounded animal, but the car was a reliable companion. No frills, no heated seats or power windows. It just got me where I needed to go. I miss Bertha. More importantly, I miss the simplicity of what Bertha represented in terms of the cost of goods and services back then. Today, everything has become too expensive. Bargains began to feel more like marketing trickery, and increasingly, it seemed like new business school graduates were entering companies to squeeze the life out of our wallets. Mom used to say you can't get blood out of a turnip. These new marketing geniuses did not get the memo. Somewhere along the way, ordinary life in America became expensive in ways that feel bigger than inflation. It feels now like every product, every service, and every sale comes with another fee, another upgrade, another monthly subscription, or another hand reaching in your pocket. I don't want these strange hands in my pocket. The pressure to feed a family with surging grocery prices. We are exhausted, not because we expect life to be cheap, but because being nickeled and dimed to death is taking its toll. A CBS YouTube poll released on May 17th found that Americans are mostly pessimistic about the state of the economy, citing uncertainty and struggling financial conditions. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, in April, inflation reached its highest level since 2023 as prices rose 0.6% from March to April and were up nearly 4% over the same period in 2025. When I hear bad economic news coupled with high prices that continue to escalate, gas, food, trousers, and basic cable TV, I wonder what gives. Years ago, my cousin Herbert ran a general store along a dusty rural crossroads known as St. Mary's, a hilly, bucolic settlement just west of town. McCauley's Grocery, established by his dad, sold Esso gas pumped by Herbert himself, after which he rung you up on a heavy metal cash register, which produced a cacophony of dings, levers, and mechanical whirligigs that was an oral delight. There were no mirrors mounted on Herbert's wall to catch suspected shoplifters or cameras to hold evidence. After all, the door from the freezer led to the kitchen of their attached home, where his elementary school teacher wife could have been frying chicken, tutoring a kid, or both. These were neighbors, about 20 families tops, including mine. Folks just got what they needed: a loaf of bread, some alarmingly red hot dogs, a dozen eggs, a honey bun, and sometimes even a jar of Hormel pickled pig's feet. Herbert, sometimes working as gas attendant and other times a butcher, would also slice bologna to perfection and wrap it in white parchment for the people. This process horrified me because I always feared he would slice off a finger. More times than not, this was a ticket purchase to tide over families until payday, which could be days or weeks away. Herbert might even throw in a palm-sized lemon-flavored cookie from the bin for the kids. Most families would make good on this credit purchase. Today they have a new name for pig's feet, trotters, and serve them on fancy restaurant menus after being prepared low and slow. In my community, I saw neighbors share food from their garden with one another: figs, okra, tomatoes, and beans, sweet potatoes, peanuts, and watermelons. Sometimes a fishmonger would pass through with a catch from the Red River 1 mile away that would feed a family of 8 for less than $5. The fishmonger could then feed his own family. During hunting season, the meat from harvested deer found its way into the deep freezers of multiple families. Shade tree mechanics would fix things instead of financing replacements. If you predicted that America would someday pay for refrigerated bottled water in a cardboard crate, or at the local speedway, or gamble on soccer games on the very phones in their hands, or have dinner delivered to the house with a said phone and a credit card, no one would believe it. Surely my grandmother Martha, a huge fan of Folgers instant coffee, could not fathom someone paying for even a $2 cup of coffee, if you can find such a price today outside of what you brew in your own kitchen. However, this period is different. The current generation may be the first not to do as well as the previous financially, according to multiple predictions. 50 years ago, one income was enough for some families to have the American dream of a home with a car in the garage, and hunger was not much of an issue. Like me, maybe all Americans are not longing for the past. Maybe they are longing for a life that feels manageable, a life where a trip to the grocery store did feel like conquering a math problem, and where ordinary people trying to scrape out a living could still afford a little breathing room. It's not that everything was perfect back then. It certainly was not. Today, however, many people are asking whether they can fill the gas tank, repair the truck, pay the insurance bill, and still have enough to take the grandkids out for pizza on Saturday. Perhaps that's why some of us talk about better days in the past. Again, nothing was ever perfect, but it felt like ordinary life was not so tenuous, and it seemed like folks relied on another more than when times were rough. Somewhere between my $3,000 Chevette and today's $78,000 Ford F-150 Lariat, somewhere between rag bologna and artisanal charcuterie, America stopped feeling affordable to ordinary people. And if you're like me, I know you're tired of feeling nickel and dime to death. But Byron McCauley is a regional columnist for USA Today. Email is bmccauley@usatodayco.com.
Springfield Business Journal. Activists to take aim at flock cameras at tonight's Springfield Council meeting by Karen Crago. A group identifying itself as Flockout SGF plans to present a demand for transparency on the use of license plate monitoring cameras at tonight's meeting of Springfield City Council. Spokesperson Isaac Protiva presented Springfield Business Journal with an advanced copy of a packet of information the group plans to present to Council Monday. The packet formally requests a period for public comment followed by a council vote before November 1st on the city's contracts with Flock Safety, Inc. to operate automated license plate readers in the city. On its website, Flockout SGF identifies itself as a collective of concerned citizens who value privacy and transparency. Protiva indicated his group would like to provide input to council on the contract, which he has said is valid for multiple years unless canceled. The November deadline is not related to an upcoming council vote on a contract, he noted. Our intention is to provide City Council with the information to support proper procedure for evaluating this contract through publicly accountable channels, he said. Although an internet search reveals grassroots organizations whose members object to traffic surveillance systems and support digital privacy are operating in communities throughout the nation, Protiva said Flockout SGF is a local coalition. Flockout SGF has a completely local origin and remains entirely locally run, he said via text. It was founded December 2025. Sorry, computer stalling out and not letting me scroll down. So give me just a second. There we go. He said there are no formal officers in the organization. We have a small core group that meets regularly to develop strategy and a wider group that helps with research, sunshine requests, and other tasks, he said. Accountability is one issue driving the organization's efforts, according to the packet. The Springfield Police Department has refused to provide audit logs showing who has accessed flock safety data and for what purpose, the packet states. Withholding this information prevents public oversight of surveillance use, prevents detection of potential misuse, and prevents valuation of whether access complies with existing policy or law. In an interview, Springfield Police Chief Paul Williams said an audit log would show that only law enforcement officers use the data. No one else has access to the data, he said. He noted the department has a large number of reciprocal agreements with law enforcement agencies throughout the nation. All are listed in SPD's online transparency portal that gives details about the system and its use within the city limits. The transparency site lists hundreds of nationwide organizations that have access to SPD data from the Flock safety system. These include the FBI, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and numerous city and county law enforcement agencies. Ranging alphabetically from Abbeville, South Carolina to Zionsville, Indiana, police departments. Information provided by the SBJ to the City Public Information Office states that Flock safety cameras use artificial intelligence and image recognition to identify the plate number and vehicle details like make, model, color, body type, and unique features like bumper stickers, roof racks, or damage. Together, the information creates a fingerprint of the vehicle that can be useful even if the plate is missing or obscured. Data is transmitted to cloud storage on Amazon Web Services, and Flock Systems is not permitted to share or sell without permission. It is retained for 30 days and then auto-deleted if not flagged for an investigation. City information officials say the system has been used to recover stolen vehicles, sometimes within minutes, and to track suspects or missing persons. Flock Systems data has also been used to solve major crimes such as the murder of Chavez Yun in 2023. Potential for misuse. The 11-page packet provided by Flockout SGF details misuse of Flock safety cameras. It reports on action by a similar organization, Deflock Joplin, that uncovered alleged misuse of the Flock safety network in January 26 through a public records request out of Washington, D.C., bypassing the Joplin Police Department. In this instance, Flockout SGF maintains that an officer was placed on administrative leave for searching for one license plate some 400 times and another plate almost 150 times over a 14-month period. A January statement from the Joplin Police Department on the city website confirms an allegation of misuse and an internal investigation of an unnamed officer. During that investigation, it was found that this single Joplin police officer did violate the policy regarding department equipment and systems, the Joplin Police Department said. An audit of the Flock license plate reader system showed that no other policy violations were committed by any other Joplin police personnel. Williams said he was familiar with the Joplin situation, and he stressed the speed with which that department addressed the issue. Humans being what they are, nothing can be completely foolproof, he said. But SPD took the Joplin incident as a lesson. Williams said, and reviewed its processes and procedures and added further fail-safes against misuse. We always had an internal auditing process, but we put some parameters in place, he said. If an employee meets one of those thresholds, internal affairs gets an alert. The incident gets checked out, and the employee must have a meeting with Williams, he said. If there's something that isn't legit, that would initiate an investigation, he said. Every keystroke is logged, every request is logged. You can't get around that. Someone can't do that without someone else knowing. Williams said supervisors perform random checks on their staff to make sure no one is using the system for personal reasons. There are lots of fail-safes. I would never say never, but that would be very unusual, unique even, he said. You can what-if and conspiracy it to death, but we use it solely for legitimate purposes, law enforcement purposes. The information packet details other varieties of misuse of the camera system in Missouri and throughout the country, including 11 instances of stalking of estranged spouses and former romantic partners from 2021 to 2025. Many of these are documented in the packet through media and watchdog sources, which cites with citations of 16 references. The packet also alleges that the system has been used to track protesters at events. Williams said the system would not be used to find out who's at a protest. It's part of an investigation into criminal activity, absolutely, we'd utilize it, he said. But to find out who's where, there's no reason to do that. Flockout SGF additionally alleges that nationally, flock safety has been used to target ethnic groups and surveil people seeking reproductive health care. Williams said he had a similar concern raised by nonprofit group Grupo Latino Americano, whose members asked him if the system is being used to monitor immigration. We don't use it for immigration, he said. We don't use it for even use it for traffic. That's a key point about flock safety license plate readers, of which Williams said there are 48 in the city. The transparency portal says there are 51. Springfield has traffic cameras in place to monitor those offenses, but the flock safety system would only be used in criminal activity like a hit-and-run crash. Williams said a fatal hit-and-run was investigated with flock safety data about a year ago. We can use it as a tool along with everything else we've got, he said. The city has had license plate reader cameras for 15 years, Williams said. They never generated as much interest, he said. Flock is so prevalent and the network is so much more integrated nationwide, it's so much better than everything else in sharing information and allowing us to solve crimes. Grassroots action. Individual residents concerned about flock safety cameras have regularly appeared before Springfield City Council during public comment periods since February, as SBJ reporters have observed, though SBJ has not previously reported on the issue. Many locals have spoken at City Council about flock that are not part of our group, Protiva said. It is indeed a widespread issue with considerable grassroots organizing around it. The SPD online transparency portal explains the use of the cameras in an overview, stating that the department aims to capture objective evidence without compromising individual privacy. SPD utilizes retroactive search to solve crimes after they've occurred, the overview states. Additionally, SPD utilizes real-time alerting of hot list vehicles to capture wanted criminals. The department also has reciprocal use agreements with agencies that have access to its flock safety cameras, the page states, but adds data is used for law enforcement purposes only. Data is owned by SPD, retained within the flock system, and is never sold to third parties, the transparency portal overview states. The page details policies and usage statistics and what the department calls an effort to ensure proper usage and guardrails are in place. The transparency page states only license plates and vehicles are detected and people are not. The flock safety website says the cameras do not use facial recognition technology. Prohibited uses outlined on the transparency page are personal use, immigration enforcement, and traffic enforcement. Data is retained for 30 days, the site states. There were 968 user search sessions recorded over the last 30 days as of 10 a.m. today, with 736,497 unique license plates reads in the last 30 days. Protiva said Flockout SGF is requesting a council vote on behalf of the residents. From our community conversations, this is what most agree on. This contract should not have been signed without public comment and without a council vote, he said. On the Flock Safety website, the company promotes the safety benefits of its system. Flock connects communities, businesses, and public safety so incidents can be understood clearly and decisions can be made on facts, the company website states. It states that more than 10,000 missing people were located through the system in 2025, and that the company's system supported more than 1 million legal cases last year. It adds that 12,000 communities use Flock safety cameras. The website also states 20% of crime in the United States is solved with Flock safety data, though Williams said that the figure sounded high to him. Williams said there are other companies that do the same that the Flock safety cameras do, so he has been surprised at the level of attention this one company has garnished. It kind of surprised me, the level of distrust and misinformation centered around one company, he said. I'm not sure why people aren't attacking the whole system. Flock Safety says on its website that access to the system is limited and searches must be tied to a reason. Additionally, as in Joplin, use of the system is easily reviewed. It adds that local agencies decide who can access data and assign permissions based on job roles. The system is built to support specific case-based investigations, the Flock Safety website states. It's not meant for broad, always-on watching of people. In plain terms, it's built for cases. Williams said his department will continue to address any questions the public may have used about the use of the Flock Safety system. We're trying to respond accordingly with accurate information. We're not trying to hide anything, he said. There appears to be a very small group of folks involved in an anti-Flock crusade. The Flockout SGF information packet notes cameras were first installed in 2022 on a trial basis without a council vote. A council meeting in May 2023 brought the first mention of Flock safety cameras. The packet notes and the city signed a 60-month contract for $225,000 payable at $45,000 per year later that month. SBJ sought confirmation from the city of contract data, but it was not available by deadline. Flock Safety, headquartered in Atlanta, was founded in 2017.
This is from the Springfield News-Leader. It says Missouri asks residents to report wild turkey sightings this summer, by Janice Reeser, Columbia Daily Tribune. The Missouri Department of Conservation is asking residents to report wild turkey sightings as part of its annual Turkey Brood Survey. The survey, which has been conducted since 1959, helps the department track the success of turkey hatches each year, according to a community announcement. Observations of wild turkeys are made by both staff and volunteers during June, July, and August, are recorded at the county level and summarized by region and statewide. What to do if you spot a wild turkey. The department calculates the poult-to-hen ratio, the average number of poults observed per hen observed, from the sightings submitted during the survey. This poult-to-hen ratio can provide insight into the quality of the hatch that year, and we can look at trends in turkey production to predict how turkey abundance might change in the near future, MDC turkey biologist Nick Oakley said in the announcement. Anyone can contribute observations to the brood survey. More information is available online. Those who register to become official brood survey cooperators will receive a reminder email that the survey is about to begin and a summary report at the end of each survey. They can also receive a copy of their submitted observations upon request. To learn more and sign up to report wild turkey sightings, visit mdc.mo.gov/hunting-trapping/species/wild-turkey-brood-survey. This story, was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. Journalists were involved in every step of the information gathering, review, editing, and publishing process.
Springfield Business Journal, Scratch & Company is pictured, owned by Trent Overhue and Steve Belden, is set to soft open tonight and formally open June 8th at the Plaza Towers. It is integrated into the building with an awning on the outside with lots of wooden reclining loungers around the gate. And it says Scratch & Company on the front of Plaza Towers. By Gregory Holman. Last edited 9:09 a.m., June 8th. Editors note the electrician has been corrected. A 7,000 square foot restaurant on the first floor of the 10-story Plaza Towers at the intersection of Sunshine Street and Glenstone Avenue is set to soft open tonight and tomorrow with a formal opening on June 8th, said Scratch & Company co-owner Steve Belden. Belden said Trent Overhue is the other co-owner of Scratch & Company. Through their company AMP Recreation LLC, they oversee the new restaurant along with the Daily Blend coffee shop and Sunshine Event Center with its rooftop bar and patio. Belden said investment costs to start up the restaurant were undisclosed, but that the owners certainly didn't cut corners on it. I'm very confident that our service is going to set us apart from our competitors, Belden told Springfield Business Journal this morning. A former director of operations at Bricktown Brewery, 2040 East Independence Street, the upstate New York transplant, said he's been in Springfield roughly 17 years and observed that hospitality service in the city has declined over the past several years. We see a lot of the same complaints over and over again about just poor service throughout the Springfield markets, Belden said. And that's really a passion of mine to make sure that every guest is taken care of and we find a way to say yes at Scratch & Company rather than argue with a guest at a table or say no to people. Belden said Scratch & Company employs roughly 60 people as it launches. He praised the quality of the personnel in both management and staff roles as the restaurant gets its start, saying, "I've never had a team that has demonstrated the amount of energy that they are putting off right now." The team will serve Scratch & Company's indoor dining space and a first-floor patio with plans to expand the Plaza Towers rooftop in the next 6 weeks. We're currently waiting on a new furniture, lighting, and AV package up there. And then we're going to do another grand opening on the rooftop, Belden said. Belden called the Scratch & Company menu an outstanding food package and said it highlights classic dishes from American cuisine and cultures around the world, made from scratch with quality ingredients. He cited examples of a turkey Reuben sandwich with meat sourced from Ginsberg Deli LLC, which does business as Cy Ginsberg Meat and Deli in Detroit, a beef stroganoff dish served with tortellini and 3 types of mushrooms, and house-made spaghetti and meatballs. We are making everything in-house with the exception of some hamburger buns and rolls, Belden said. Everything else is crafted on site. Belden noted a local company, Charmingly Cheesecake, will provide about half the dessert options on the menu. Belden said menu prices are intended to be competitive with national franchise restaurants and that roughly 4 times per year Scratch & Company will offer seasonal limited-time menu items that feature local produce or local favorites. He added that the interior design of Scratch & Company has an aesthetic that is going to speak for itself, creating an elevated, fast casual atmosphere that's inviting for family and friends. We wanted a concept that was gorgeous inside, had great service, great food, Belden said, but our idea is to do a higher volume here. We want to keep the restaurant full, and that is really what our business model looks like. Scratch & Company seats roughly 125 people on its first floor level with an additional 60 seats on a covered first floor patio. The rooftop patio when open is expected to add 50 more seats, Belden said. The restaurant is set to operate daily with hours from 11 to 10 p.m. Mondays through Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, and 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sundays, Belden said. Multicraft Contractors, Inc. served as mechanical and plumbing contractor for Scratch & Company, Belden said, while Kyle Thomas of Southern Missouri Electrical, LLC, was the electrician. The restaurant also features murals by two local artists, Samantha Cox and Andrea Erdhart, Belden said. Those two really set this restaurant apart by tying in some more local, Belden said. Overview bought the 10-story, 130,000 square foot Plaza Towers and adjacent shopping center for roughly $13.4 million in an April 2025 foreclosure sale, according to the past SBJ reporting. After the purchase, Overview said he intended to revive plans for the coffee shop, event center, and restaurant, noting those plans had been envisioned under former ownership.
This is from the Springfield Daily Citizen. Composer Santiago Posada Marin announces new commissions for 2026-2027 season. The Colombian violinist, conductor, and educator is based in Springfield. He recently worked on the world premiere of Dream Big by Jeff Kessinger. There's a picture of, the caption says Santiago Posada Marin produced the transcription and orchestration for Dream Big from lyrics by Kate Cleese and music by Roll Chappell, photo by Jim Wilson. And there's a guy in a red t-shirt and blue jeans sitting with a violin under his chin and holding a bow in his hand. After serving as arranger, music director, and conductor for the world premiere of Dream Big with Ozarks Lyric Opera, Santiago Posada Marin has announced a series of new commissions and creative projects for the 2026-2027 season. Posada Marin is a Colombian composer, violinist, conductor, and educator based in Springfield. He performs with the Springfield Symphony Orchestra and the Missouri State University Symphony. Posada Marin has performed at Carnegie Hall and premiered works internationally. I'm deeply grateful for the trust these organizations have placed in me, Posada Marin said in a media release. Each commission represents an opportunity to create something meaningful for a specific community of performers and listeners, and I am excited to share these new works over the coming season. Posada Marin to work with Nixa High School Springfield Chamber Chorus. Two of those commissions have Springfield area connections. The first is with Jennifer Stammers, who leads Nixa High School's choir program, one of the state's premier programs. Posada Marin will compose an educational choral work for the ensemble, with performance details to be confirmed later. Posada Marin is also working on a commission with the Springfield Chamber Chorus as part of its 2026-2027 concert season, with additional performances under consideration at regional and national conferences. Details will be announced as projects are finalized. There are also commissions from two other Missouri high schools. Spencer Jones of Park Hill High School in Kansas City has commissioned work with the premiere date and program details to be announced later. Leanna Conrad, conductor of the Fort Zumwalt North Symphony Orchestra in O'Fallon, has commissioned Posada Marin to compose an educational work for orchestra slated for the winter. Also premiering this winter is a new choral composition with piano for the South Dakota School of Mines Concert Choir. Dr. Jarrett Sheepers, director of choirs, commissioned the work, which will premiere at the university's annual cathedral concert in December. Commissions also come from across the world. In a cross-genre collaboration, Posada has been commissioned by Maria Esperanza Delgado. She performs as La Espe and competed on La Voz, The Voice, in Spain. Posada Marin will transcribe, arrange, and orchestrate music for La Espe's forthcoming album, La Máquina del Tiempo, recorded in Miami. He will also perform on the album, which is scheduled for release this fall. Freddie Munoz Navarro in Pereira, Colombia, has commissioned Posada Marin to compose a Colombian-style work for string orchestra or quintet titled Paseo en los Ozarks. It will be performed by the ensemble Arco Violin y Flechas in the winter of 2026. These commissions follow a year of significant artistic activity for Posada Marin. In addition to working on Dream Big, his choral work, Noche de las Velitas, earned an honorable mention in the Springfield Chamber Chorus Composition Contest, and he's been named a finalist for the American Prize in Solo Performance. Winners will be announced later this year. Jeff Kessinger is the reader engagement editor for the Springfield Daily Citizen and the voice of its daily newsletter, SGF AM. He covered sports in Southwest Missouri for the better part of 20 years, from young athletes to the pros. The Springfield native and Missouri State University alumnus is thrilled to be doing journalism in the Queen City, helping connect the community with important information. He and his wife, Jamie, daily try to keep a tent on the circus that is a blended family of 5 kids and 3 cats.
417 Magazine, Andy Kuntz on 40 years of Andy's Frozen Custard. Andy Kuntz, a president and manager of Andy's Frozen Custard, reflects on growth, consistency, and what it takes to build something lasting. The iconic Ozarks dessert celebrates its 40th anniversary this year, by Jordan Blomquist. Pictured is Andy. He has a sort of 1950s style haircut, short. He's smiling big. He is a gentleman looks like in his 50s, wearing a button-down Andy's shirt with a white apron. He's sitting with a neon Andy's Frozen Custard sign behind him, and he is holding a scooped cone. Brandon Alms, Andy Kuntz of Andy's Frozen. Brandon Alms took the picture. Andy Kuntz of Andy's Frozen Custard is pictured, and apparently you can purchase the photo. So there is a link if you would like to do that. What did you not expect when Andy started to grow beyond a single stand? I didn't realize as you grow how difficult it is to really keep consistency and always have the right people in the stores. You go from doing it yourself, being able to jump in and scoop custard on a Friday night, take care of the business and make customers happy, to having the right people who can do that and are trained properly. Someone once said to me, "You're going from being a player to being a coach." Is there a menu item you think deserves more attention than it gets? It would either be a hot fudge sundae with pecans or a double-double, which is a chocolate malt, extra thick, extra malt. What does a perfect summer day at Andy's look like to you? Everybody inside the store is happy, working hard, and having fun, with lots of smiling customers, kids, and dogs. There are cars parked with people hanging out on their tailgates. The neon lights are flashing, the cone sign is spinning, and the grass is green with leaves on the tree. What's your go-to order? It's either one of our seasonals, depending on which ones they are, or a Butterfinger and peanut concrete. What's one early decision you made that still defines Andy's today? To never waver from quality. As the numbers get bigger and you have more sales and more stores, you go through more product. Back in the early days, a nickel on a gallon of custard mix wasn't that much money. Today, it's a lot. To be able to say we're always going to do what's right, do what's best, and make the best product, period, whether it's the best pecan or whatever. As the numbers get bigger, it's easy to think you could change something and save that nickel a gallon on custard mix, and that would be a lot of money. But we've always stayed true to our values. We're always going to serve the best. When you think about the future of Andy's, what matters most to you? The business is built to last, and there are a lot of people involved. It provides income for a lot of families, so it's important to me that we build this in a way that when the day comes, that it's no longer me and it's one of my kids. The business is set up to continue to grow and be successful and take care of the people who have done so much to build it to where it is today. And I agree with him, that brownie sundae with pecans, that's my favorite.
This is from the from the Springfield Daily Citizen, poking around. Here's your primer on how emergency sirens work in Greene County and when they're tested. In Greene County, there are 114 emergency sirens that warn us of dangerous weather, such as tornadoes. The Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management flips the switch for 104 of them. Republic has decided to control the 10 in that city, by Steve Pokin. There is a picture of a big tree and an emergency siren on top of a telephone pole, it looks like. This emergency siren is on the campus of Missouri State University, photo by Steve Pokin. If you've ever wondered about the emergency sirens in Greene County and how many there are and when they go off and who turns them on, boy, do I have a story for you. First of all, the goal of the sirens is to alert people who are outside to dangerous weather so they can go inside, preferably into a sturdy building, where they can hunker down and gather more information about the foreboding weather. Again, the primary goal is not to alert people already inside. They're already where they need to be. In fact, if you're inside, there's a far greater chance you won't even hear the emergency sirens, says Ronnie Bell, Community Engagement Specialist with the Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management. If they're indoors, they might not hear it, and that's because it's designed to be an outdoor warning system, not an indoor warning system. We tell people to have multiple methods of getting information on disasters and weather events. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Weather Radio is the most accurate, most reliable, and fastest way of getting information. The emergency sirens don't cover the whole county. There are 114 emergency sirens in Greene County. Most are about 25 feet tall and have a sound radius of about a mile. Does that cover every square mile of Greene County? No, it doesn't. They're expensive, a minimum of $25,000 to install. The sirens are mostly found in heavily populated areas. There are vast areas of unincorporated Greene County that are not under any government control other than the county commission that do not have sirens, Bell tells me. The sirens are placed where there are the most people. Who turns them on? Of the 114 sirens, the Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management controls 104 of them. The other 10 are within the city of Republic, and Republic has decided to maintain autonomy to activate their own sirens, which is absolutely perfectly fine, Bell says. The Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management does not control any of the sirens in Rogersville. That's because all the sirens in Rogersville are in Webster County. Sirens cycled on and off for 45 minutes during April 29th, 2025 severe storm. When are the sirens activated? There are several reasons. When the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning for an area in the path of the storm, or if a tornado is already in the area, or when a train spotter reports rotation, a funnel cloud, or a tornado in the jurisdiction. This might include storms tracking toward the jurisdiction from within Greene County or from adjacent counties. Okay, what's a train spotter? Do they take a class or something? Yes, Bell tells me. The class is offered by the National Weather Service. Many train spotters are members of law enforcement or fire personnel. In addition, the sirens go off when the National Weather Service or a train spotter issues warnings of an approaching thunderstorm that has life-threatening winds of about 75 miles per hour or more. They also would go off, for example, if a foreign adversary were to launch a missile attack on Springfield, Missouri. The tone of the siren would be the same, and the main objective, get indoors, would be the same. When sirens are turned on, they operate in a cycle of 3 minutes on and 3 minutes off until the extreme weather warning ends. If you think about the April 29th storm last year, 2025, it was 45 minutes of that 3 minutes on and 3 minutes off cycle, Bill says. Nicolette Zangara, spokeswoman for the Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management, tells me the sirens can overheat if they run continuously. The cities own and maintain the sirens. The emergency sirens are also turned on for monthly testing. My plan is to impress my friends next month by mysteriously and dramatically predicting that the sirens will erupt at 10 a.m. on the second Wednesday of the month. That just happens to be when they're regularly tested, unless it's under 32 degrees, because a cold weather test could damage the sirens, and there's no test if it's cloudy or there's bad weather, but not dangerous weather. Activating the sirens in this situation might simply confuse people. Who owns and maintains the sirens? The cities where they are located. They maintain them, they make sure they're operational, Bell says. They do everything to place them and take care of them, all of that. We simply push the button under the parameters that we've been given to turn them on. We are on watch 24/7. If I hear a siren and go on and then quickly go off, does it mean it's broken? No, sirens also are randomly tested. Someone hits a switch to see if they quickly turn on, and just as importantly, quickly turn off. If they don't, there's a problem. This is called a quiet test. When the sirens are tested once a month, how many typically fail? rarely do they fail, Bell says. A more common complaint, she says, is that people who are indoors will say they never heard them after being informed by others who were outdoors that the sirens were blaring. What if home isn't such a safe place? Maybe you live in a mobile home park and home really isn't a great place to be during dangerous weather like a tornado. The Springfield Greene County Office of Emergency Management has the list of 15 safe rooms. 14 of the 15 are at public schools. The 15th is the O'Reilly Family Event Center on the Drury University campus. This is Pokin' Around column number 357. Steve Pokin writes the Pokin' Around and the Answer Man columns for the Springfield Daily Citizen. He also writes about criminal justice issues. He can be reached at spoken@sgfcitizen.org. His office line is 417-837-3661.
Springfield News-Leader, longtime Springfield funeral home owner remembered for his generosity, by Chris Meglio. More than 100 people gathered inside Springfield's Gorman Sharp funeral home in the early afternoon of Tuesday, June 2nd, to honor longtime funeral home owner W. Bruce Howell. Howell died May 26th in his Nixa home. His service was held at the same funeral home that he owned and operated for more than 45 years. The business saw great success under his leadership due to his thoughtful gestures, attendees said, especially towards underprivileged families. Howell, who acquired the business in 1977 from the original co-owners Lewis Sharp and Doolin Gorman, when he was 27, saw enough success that he was able to move the business from its original location at 525 North National Avenue to a freshly built larger building at 1947 East Seminole Street in January 1991, where it remains today. Howell's daughter Heather and her husband Clint Meese bought the funeral home in 2013 and have been operating it since. With Howell at the helm, Gorman Sharp Funeral Home held services for many prominent figures in the Springfield area, including the Morris family, the Watson family, which once owned the Springfield News-Leader, and PGA champion golfer Payne Stewart. Harley Williams, who worked under Howell for 40 years, said the funeral home gets about 480 calls annually, up nearly 350 calls since Howell began. Williams was hired at 20 years old and never had the desire to leave. He said he saw his boss more as a best friend and loved working for him because he was intentionally caring with everyone with whom he crossed paths. Bruce could be the exact same person with, for example, Bass Pro Shops founder Johnny Morris, who's a billionaire, or somebody in town who had absolutely nothing. Bruce would behave the exact same way because he was the exact same person with both people. Williams can recall more times than not that Howell accepted less money, sometimes not covering some of the funeral costs for families who didn't have the full amount needed to pay for a loved one's services. He said prices at Howell's funeral home were intentionally kept low to serve lower-income families. On top of that, several decorations inside Howell's funeral home were bought through different charity auctions with the intention of using his wealth to give back to the community. He was generous and compassionate, Williams said. He never believed in making more than he needed. Photos displayed at the funeral service for Bruce Howell, longtime owner of Sharp Funeral Home. Howell, who bought the business in 1977, died May 26th. And pictured are several personal photos of him with different people, varying shapes and sizes, with a wooden duck on the table behind it. Mike Long, one of the Howell's closest friends since they were teenagers, said Howell always cared about other people more than himself. If he was your friend, he was going to be your friend for life, no doubt about it, Long said. A friend is somebody, no matter where you are or what time of day or what the situation is going to show up in time of need. If you call them, they're going to be there regardless. They're going to put you ahead of themselves. That's a friend. Walter Bruce Howell lived in Springfield most of his life. Howell lived most of his life in Springfield. He attended Roundtree Elementary, Jarrett Junior High, and graduated from Parkview High School in 1967. He began his college journey at home, attending Drury College, now university, for a year before transferring to Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge for his second year. After 1 year away, Howell returned to Springfield and attended and graduated from Southwest Missouri State University, now known as Missouri State University, in 1971 with a bachelor's degree in business management and finance, as well as minors in marketing and business administration. His post-college career began as a traveling sales representative for a Medco, a casket manufacturing and funeral supply company. After 4 years doing that, he spent a year at the Dallas Institute of Mortuary Science. Upon returning to Springfield in September 1976, he started working with Gorman Sharp Funeral Home, Inc. before buying the business as the sole owner after 1 year. He was described by his peers as a perfectionist, the life of the party, and a lover of fashion and nature. He took great pride in being a father and a positive influence in his community. He is survived by his wife, Shelley Howell, 3 daughters, Heather Howell and her husband, Clint Meese, Angie and her husband, Sean Larson, and Allison Howell, 3 grandchildren, Mia, Brett, and Nick Larson, and his sister, Debbie Middlemiss. Among his survivors are also his 2 stepdaughters, Austin Marie Wheeler Kolbach, and her husband, Jason, and Amy Wheeler, 2 stepchildren, Braid and Owen Kolbach, 2 nieces, Julie White and Melissa Middlemiss, 2 great-nephews, Andrew and Matt Sweeney, and 3 great-nieces, Journey Howell, Peyton, and Kennedy Graves. Howell was preceded in death by his oldest brother, Marquis D. Howell Sr., nephew Marquis D. Howell Jr., stepfather Hal Laurie, brother-in-law Bob Middlemass, second wife Beth Howell, and Steve Liebeck.
This is. Oh. Okay, just a second. How hot, and this is from the Springfield News-Leader, pardon me. How hot will it get this summer in Missouri? Here's what to expect. Ahmed Jawadi, USA Today Network. With Memorial Day now behind us, summer is right around the corner. After a relatively warm and wet spring, you might be wondering what sort of weather is in store for the Show Me State in the coming months. Although we experienced above average temps last summer, it still didn't compare to the historically hot summer of 2024. Will this summer be another scorcher? Here are some weather predictions for summer 2026. When is the first day of summer 2026? Summer officially begins in June, though the exact date depends on whether you follow the meteorological or astrological seasons. Meteorological seasons are divided into 4 3-month groups, with June 1st marking the start of summer each year. But astronomically speaking, the first day of spring begins on the June solstice, the day when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. Therefore, it does not fall on the same date every year, with it currently shifting between June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. This year's June solstice will be on Sunday, June 21st, which also marks the longest day and shortest night of the calendar year for the Northern Hemisphere. The National Weather Service predicts most of the state will have equal chance of experiencing above, below, or near average temperatures this summer, with only the southwest corner possibly seeing above normal temperatures. Missouri's average temps from June to August generally fall into the mid to high 70s range, according to the National Centers for Environmental Information. There's also an equal chance that the state will experience above, below, or near average precipitation. What does AccuWeather predict for Missouri's summer 2026 weather? An active and potentially volatile summer could bring a range of weather threats to Missouri, according to AccuWeather's Summer Forecast 2026. Severe thunderstorms from early to midsummer could bring tornadoes and damaging wind events like derricks to the state. Flash flood events are also expected due to the heavy rainfall. What does the Farmer's Almanac predict for Missouri's summer 2026 weather? The Farmer's Almanac forecasts that the north central zone, which includes Missouri, will have a hot and stormy season in general. The publication predicts Missouri's weather will be mostly fair with overcast skies during the first half of the summer, but will be hot and dry at season's end, along with a greater chance of thunderstorms. What does Old Farmer's Almanac predict for Missouri's summer 2026 weather? The Old Farmer's Almanac expects the heartland, which includes Missouri, to be cooler, wetter, and feature more mixed patterns than usual in the summer months.
Thank you for listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. Tune in every week, Monday through Friday, on the Blind Community Thrift Store's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. for more up-to-date news from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Business Journal, and 417 Magazine. Listen after we are live on the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio.